Pete?
Hello?
Yeah, there we go. Got you. Nice to introduce yourself to these football fans here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. All right, let's get it started, man.
All right. This is week 4 of the Luxurious Waller League. We're here to recap week 3, which has been a lackluster of talent. So let's go ahead and start off with the power rankings right now.
Let's get on in it.
All right, so you start from the bottom to the top.
Let's go from the bottom. Let's let them wait for those top 10 teams.
Okay, so I can tell what we got at the bottom right now.
All right, with our 32nd team of the league, it's no surprise. It's the Carolina Panthers.
I was stuck between them and the Dolphins, man. They struggle.
Well, I feel like the Panthers have solidified that they want to be the worst team in the league. So, it's only best to give them that title as the worst team in the league.
They work hard for it.
They do.
All that talent, and it's wither away. Let it be known that they also traded McCaffrey, which was very stupid.
Very.
They don't know what they're planning for in the future, but to be the bottom feeders of the South.
They're just used to that, that spot, in the game and in real life. So it only makes sense for this user to be the Panthers. So, how do you have a talent like Cam and DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel and Luke Kuechly, Shaq Thompson, and Dante Jackson 0-4? Like, it can't be game error. It has to be user error.
They love it. It don't even matter. I don't know what they're doing with themselves. They just here just to be here for the constellation prizes.
I think they are.
What we got at 31?
31 is no surprise. It's the presumed to be Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs.
I do not know what's going on over there. A team like that, they shouldn't be 0-3. They might be 0-4 by the end of this podcast.
Hey, I won't be surprised. If they go 0-4, that means, hey, the Chiefs will not make the playoffs.
And they could be good, but they just hesitate too much on offense.
Right. How do you have Patrick Mahomes, who somehow went to Usain Bolt speed training camp and got faster, and they picked up a 7-foot Russian who is arguably one of the best receivers in the game, but they're 0-3.
Because I can't even make a reason. I just don't know. And just mind the fact that they traded Tyreek Hill, but they got something in return with a first-round pick from the coach and Darius Leonard. But still, that offensive weapon to be gone like that, and now you're relying on that one wide receiver. You don't even have to rely on one. You got Kelsey over there too, but when you only trying to throw to that 7-foot dog on a Russian, what do you expect? That's what you just focus on. You could have been throwing bombs to Kelsey.
Right. But, hopefully he might wake up before it's too late. As I was looking as our 30th best team, it's a surprise because this team actually won their first game today, and that's the Green Bay Packers landing at number 30.
A close game that was, too, but they shouldn't have started out 0-3. And I don't even know they might even make the playoffs this year.
Well, I don't think they are. Their division is really tough with the Vikings and Bears, but, he has a reputation of calling himself King Booker. So maybe end of the season he might become Queen Booker because he ain't making the playoffs.
Definitely if he doesn't make it, because he jinxed himself by saying he was going to go 0-16. and messed around and went 0-3. Luckily, he got that win this time.
Right. That's the 29th best team. They're inconsistent, but they're steady as the Buffalo Bills. They 1 minute they're good, 1 minute they're a bottom feeder. So you don't know what to predict with these Buffalo Bills.
Don't know what to really say. They lost their first game, but not by a lot. You'll expect them to do a little better. Hopefully, they become more consistent. They find what they need to do to get it running, especially on offense, because offense seems where they're maybe struggling at.
Right.
So,
It's
early. It's early though.
It's very early. The 28th pick. What can I say? It's the Tennessee Titans. They are 0-3. They can't do anything. They had one close game against the Browns. They lost by 4. And then after that, they lost by 61 to the Indianapolis Colts and then 17 to the Jags. So they're struggling. Maybe it's time for a shakeup of the roster, maybe.
Maybe a rebuild. Maybe Mariota's not as good as we thought he was going to be. I don't know what kind of changes they need to make over there. Maybe the coaching. Maybe a new controller. Maybe a new controller. Maybe it's messed up, or maybe they're being haunted. Something that they in a tough South division.
Absolutely.
They got to make something work.
As far as our 27th best team, I got the New York Giants. They're 1-2. Their last game they played against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they lost by 12, but it was somewhat competitive. They couldn't stop the run to arguably save their lives. And they let a running back named Josh Adams, who has emerged as a premier top line running back in the league, who rushed for 301 yards and 5 touchdowns. So clearly they need to learn how to stop the run because Tampa Bay has been going through the past 2 weeks with Josh Adams on their back.
And, once they learn how to stop the run, because they have been struggling in 3 of their previous games, they'll probably be a very decent team because they have been stopping the pass or at least limiting them. But as far as the run, they've been doing terrible. But once they get that clicking together, and because the offense is not that bad, but the defense, they just have to work on it just a little bit. And you might see them move up.
Well, we'll see what happens in their next game this week. And then to mark as our 26th best team, it's a head-scratcher. It's the Detroit Lions. They had a forced loss on the first week, and then they came out and beat those pesky Chargers, and then to come out and lose to one of the worst teams of the league, the Philadelphia Eagles, last week.
So, do I want to say it's inconsistent? I don't know what.
They played the Chiefs this week, and they could really shut the door on the Chiefs' playoff or divisional hopes if they win this week. But if they lose, they fall to a 1-3 towards the season, entering their bye week.
And they're already in a really close north where, you got to beat out the Bears and the Vikings.
Right.
Let the Packers get their first win. Don't let them come up over you. So
exactly.
This really is important. This is an important game. So if they beat the Chiefs, they're doing fine. If they don't, I don't know. Their future is dim.
Right. We'll find into our top 25 teams. Our 25th best team is the Cleveland Browns. There's so much you can say about this team. On paper, they should win it all. They have arguably the most talent, top players in a lot of positions, but they're 1-2. They won their first game against the Titans by 4, and they got blown out by the Jets, and then they lost their second game to the Rams by 7. So, and they play the Ravens this week, and the Ravens are scorching hot with that potent offense. I don't know if these Browns can contain Lamar Jackson and company, but the Browns need to wake up and start winning games, or they might find themselves not in the playoffs.
The Browns are flat out disappointing right now. You know, I put them in the top 10 by now, but wow, they got everybody. You know, they was the talk of season, and now look at them. That blowout against the Jets really did lower my expectations.
Same as well. Same. Like how can you be the Cleveland Browns with that team and ass? Like how can that happen? You let yourself lose 2 games. And remember, the Jets, I don't think they got any upgrades. And for them to come into your house and beat you like a stepchild, there's a problem in the Browns organization.
The Jets did get Le'Veon Bell and C.J. Mosley on the other side, but however, it shouldn't have been enough to just hold Browns three.
Right. You have OBJ and Landry as 99 speed receivers. Baker's a 96 speed. You got 99 speed Myles Garrett, 395 speed or higher linebackers, and Denzel Ward and all speed. How are you losing?
I don't know. It's really a head scratcher for me.
It's sad for the Cleveland Browns fan base, but they should be used to it by now. So, rounding to the top 24, it's the Denver Broncos. They had a forced loss against the Raiders week 1, and then they lost to the Bears week 2 by 35. And then they snuck out a 24-19 win against those lonely Green Bay Packers. So the Broncos, all I can say is, if they're playing a lesser ranked team, they have a chance.
It's just that they don't have an offense. Their defense was picking up against the Packers.
Right.
We need to see that offense really shine.
Right. We'll see what happens to them.
I'll just say it's a building year for the Broncos. I don't expect too much for them also.
Right. To hit our number 23 is those pesky San Diego Chargers. They start off the season 0-2, but they came back and bounced back with a 42-24 win over the Texans. So, and then they play the Dolphins this week, so it could be a turning point for the for the Chargers, and start waking up and start claiming that division of the AFC West.
They should, because that West is kind of looking like a mess right now.
Well, the AFC West is soft. You got the struggling Broncos. You have the winless Chiefs, who said he's going to win the whole thing this year. Then you have the Raiders, who was looking pretty promising until they got blown out by 50 or 45 towards the Minnesota Vikings. And then now you have the Chargers, who are in a good spot because, they played the Dolphins this week and then they played the Broncos next week. So they could easily be 3-2 entering week 6. So we're going to see what happens with the Chargers.
Now, if they don't win that game, they would be the laughing stock of the NFL.
Right? I will be here next week for that podcast. To hit number 22 is those Miami Dolphins. They lost their first 2 games to the Ravens and the Patriots, but they won a head scratcher against the Cowboys by 3. So, are these Dolphins for real, or they just had a lucky fluke win against these Cowboys in Dallas?
I want to say it's a fluke.
Okay.
But we won't really know until they play the Chargers. Hopefully it's sometime tonight. So if they win that game, then they might have made a turnaround.
Right.
Hopefully.
Number 21, all we can do is laugh at this one. It's the Philadelphia Eagles, a.k.a. Samurai Sam or Samurai Ninja, Afro Ninja user, Jot Boy. He lost his first 2 games combined of 6 points, even though second week was a forced loss to him. I think he was ducking the Falcon user. I understand why, because Falcon's really good. But then he won his game on week 3 against 51-23 against the Lions. And then he lost the Packers. So all I can say is wow. And the Eagles are definitely not making the playoffs. That's just my guaranteed right now.
Of course. This may be the last win was week 3 for them as they play the Jets, Vikings, and then the Cowboys.
Oh, let's all pray real quick for these Eagles real quick. Let's just all pray that he find a way to get a win in the next 3 weeks.
Because it is tough.
It's sad for him, but you can't talk a big game, and then when you play the big boys, you lose. And then when you play the trash guys, you still lose. So you can't really say shit no more.
Nothing else.
And
I want silence.
It's me too. To finally get into our top 20, it's the up and down Houston Texans. They lost their first game to the Saints. Then they won their second game against the Jags. And then they lost their third game to the Chargers. And they won their last game today against the winless Panthers. So the Panthers could have won that game. They lost by 3. I feel like the Panthers are losing on purpose because they wanted to get Cam out of town. But we will see what happens with that team later in the season. But the Texans are up and down. They don't know what they're doing.
Do they
play the
win
Falcons
or do they want to lose?
Exactly. Their next 4 games is going to break or make the Texans. They play the Falcons, at Chiefs, at Colts, and the Raiders. So we're going to find out what happens with these Texans.
They'll probably be 8-8 with this type of pattern.
I see them 6-10.
6-10?
Yeah.
You never know.
To hit our number 19 team is the Cincinnati Bengals. They lost their first 2 games to the Seahawks and the Niners, and they got a forced win against the Bills. So, to be honest, they haven't won a game yet in this league.
Really?
So, hopefully they might beat the Steelers, but I see the Steelers, pulling away against the Bengals. So, they're going to fall to 1-3, and they're going to regroup next week for the Cardinals on week 5.
But granted, the Seahawks and 49ers were very good teams.
Correct.
I didn't expect the Bengals to come out of the Steelers, another good team. But also a divisional, so I really hope for them to win. The Cardinals, they can bounce back. Ravens, then Jaguars, then Rams. Jesus, their schedule's not as easy as I thought it was going to be.
Exactly. But to hit our 18th pick, best team right now for the 18th is the Seattle Seahawks. They won the first 2 games. They won a squeaker on week 2 against Steelers 25-24. And then they lost a tight game against those Saints 35-28. They showed some weakness against the Saints. Even though Willie Beeman had a perfect passing rating, they had a good running game to help out just enough to make it close, but their team was not strong enough to get that elusive win at home.
They just had a hard time containing the Saints' offense. If they just put a little bit more effort on defense, it would have been the other way around. We would have been talking about another 3-0 team.
Exactly.
So they got the Cardinals. They'll bounce back. Rams, Browns, Ravens, Falcons. This is hope they return back to full strength later.
I hope so too. And as 17th best team, this team could arguably be the best team in the league. They're 3-1. They lost a 20-21 defeat to the Redskins, and these are the Chicago Bears. They've been consistently winning with their defense. They won today 37-24 over the Vikings. They had a good passing with Matthew Stafford. He had 280 yards, 2 touchdowns. And they had a running back named Mike Davis, surprising guy, and Raheem Mostert, who ran for a combined 206 yards with 2 total TDs. So it looks like this new and vamped Bears offense is working, even though they lost a squeaker against the Redskins by 1 point.
Easily could have been 4-0, but such is fate. But rebound against the Raiders. Then they got a bye week at 6. I expect them to make it. They're gonna win the NFC North. Mark my words.
I agree with you more with that. I don't see them. I don't see no one else competing for that division. To hit number 16, it's the Oakland Raiders. They had a forced win on week 1, and then they had an impressive outing against Kansas City Chiefs. They won that by 20 of a 48-28 score. And then somehow they decided to go to Minnesota and not show up and lose 66-17.
Let's get blown out to what? 66-17, and I don't understand it.
Maybe they just decided that we had enough wins for the whole season, so they only want 2. Maybe they might pick up because the next 4 games is the Colts, Bears, Packers, Texans. So it's favorable for the last 2 games, but the next 2 games are going to be difficult for them.
We'll give them that. They're still rebuilding, man.
They're rebuilding, and hopefully they can rebuild enough to win the division or be somewhat contending for it.
Oh, no, that's out the question this year. They have to wait next year around, though.
All right.
Even though the Chargers looking bummy, the Chargers might take it.
Right. I see that. I can see the Chargers winning that too, actually. As our 15th best team, this team could be good and then terrible at the same time. And that is the Arizona Cardinals. They had a forced win against the Lions, and then they lost their next game by 37 to the Ravens. I heard that Kyler Murray was hurt in the first half, so that's why the game was changed. But at the same time, it's always the next man up. But clearly the defense said, I don't want to play no more. So they lost that game by 37. And then expected, they beat the Panthers by 50-29. So they're 2-1. They play a divisional foe of the Seahawks this week. They could really cement themselves as a leading contender of that division if they win. But we'll see what happens when that game is unfold this week.
They could. I'm looking forward for them to win. But again, this is a tough game.
Exactly. It's a really tough game. And then that's the 14th best team right now. We have the Minnesota Vikings. They lost their first game against the Falcons, 6-7. It was a defensive game. And then they pulled up 2 straight wins against the Packers and the Raiders. And then they lost today, 24-37. So the Packers, to me, are a 9-7 team. They're knocking on the door on the wild card, but I feel like their defense is going to let them down.
It's so hard. Defense is also win game, and the
Exactly.
NFC is so tough. You really need a defense.
You do.
Can't rely on that offense alone.
Exactly. And then now you have the unlucky 13 is the Jacksonville Jaguars. First week, they impressed a lot of people, including myself, with beating the Kansas City Chiefs 35-32. And then they lose to a head-scratching Houston Texans 38-42. And then they bounce back against the Titans team 31-14. So I don't know if this Jacksonville Jaguar is legit. I feel like they're just getting by and beating teams that they should beat, and then lose team that they should not beat. Should lose to. So the Jaguars are up and down in my book, and I feel like they could be a nice 9-7 or squeak out 10 wins, maybe.
I agree. 10-6. They already 1-1 in the division. They can bounce back with the Broncos and most of the Panthers, but Saints is kind of a iffy. But I don't see that many games in the future once they get clicking.
Right. If they can get the ball rolling, they'll be good.
Right. They got Dobbs playing that quarterback now instead of Foles. They paid
Right.
Foles all that money, and they playing Dobbs now. So.
Yes, that was a shocking move, but it's somewhat working, somewhat not. So we'll see what happens with the Week 4 game against the Broncos. Moving on to the 12th best team is the New York Jets. They could have been higher if they would have won their game against those New England Patriots last week, but they lost by 3, and they're showing that they're serious, even though they lost to the Patriots, they have a favorable matchup on Week 5 against those trash-ass Eagles. So I can see them going 3-1 against the Eagles, and we'll see what happens on Week 5 with these Jets. What do you think about these Jets?
The Jets surprised me. They've been really good. Lost by 3 to the Patriots, and that's really something to me. And their schedule is not even that. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give it a 4.
Okay.
I think they'll easily probably be 11-5, to be honest. Don't quote me.
I see that. I can see that. I can see 11-5 or 10-6, and knocking on that AFC wild card.
All right.
To hit or knock on the door for the top 10 team is the number 11 best team is the Washington Redskins. They're 2-1. They beat the Bears by 1 last week, but they lost to the Cowboys 19-22. If you look at their games, if they hit 20 points, they're going to win the game. They won the first game 22-19, and they lost 19-22. So if their offense can click, I feel like they can win their games. They have a tough opponent against the New York Giants in New York this week, so we can see if these Redskins are trying to go for NFC East dominance.
But notice how they're all close games.
Exactly.
They just need the edge on offense because their defense is playing phenomenal. But
they are.
The offense is the reason why they're really losing. The Cowboys, they could.
That is really true. We're finally hitting our top 10 teams, and our number 10 best team is those LA Rams. The 2-1. They barely won against the worst team of the league, the Panthers, 27-26 week 1. Then they lose to their first home opener of the season against the Saints, lost by 17 of a score 41-24. And then, of course, they expected to beat the Cleveland Browns, but they only won by 7. So is this Rams team truly dominant to make a top 10 team, or is their name just giving them enough points to be a top 10 team?
I think it's just the name. It's the hype. It's because of last season they lost the Super Bowl, but we just felt like you were supposed to put them at the top 10, but they're not a top 10 team. They weren't supposed to struggle as much as they did against the Panthers, and then the Saints, they let that game get away from them. And the Browns, with how the Browns are playing right now, you'll think the Rams would have beat them by double digits,
right?
But it didn't happen that way. So.
And then this week, they play the Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers are hot right now. And Josh Adams don't care who you have. They don't matter if you got Aaron Donald. They don't really care. They run the opposite side of Aaron Donald or right through him. It don't matter. Their next 4 games is the Buccaneers at Seattle, home against the Niners, and at Atlanta. In my opinion, I can see these Rams go 1-3 the next 4 games. And
I definitely see that.
If they don't stop Josh Adams, the game's over. And if they try to, they got their superstar quarterback, Josh Allen, who's ready to finally have a breakout game. And he says, why not against the slow secondary of the LA Rams? So I see the Buccaneers winning this game by at least 20. And it might be a rebuilding stage for the Rams.
Got to make that adjustment. The Rams got to do something against that 3-4.
Right, and plus this game against the Bucs is a 4:00 showing, so it's definitely going to be a doubleheader after the first game on Fox. So make sure you just tune in. The Rams against the Buccaneers.
That's right.
Moving on to the 9th best team of the league, we got the San Francisco 49ers. They're 2-1. They won their first 2 games very close. They won a close game against the Buccaneers, who I feel at the same time, the Buccaneers was still trying to find what their identity was. And Josh Adams was finally picking up pace at the end of that game. And they barely lost that game, the Buccaneers. But the Niners won closely, and then they beat a Bengals team that they should have lost to. A.J. Green caught the ball at the 2-yard line to end the game. So they could easily be 0-3. But They're on a bye week, and hopefully they can beat the Browns, the Rams, and the Redskins in the next 3 games. So these Niners could easily fall out the top 10. Easily.
It depends on them, really.
Exactly.
All of them been really close games, so they have to figure out a way to just keep pulling away because you can't keep having these nail biters. It's not going to work.
As our 8th team, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. The first game, they beat the Patriots in New England. That was an impressive win. And then they lost by 1 point to the Seattle Seahawks, and then they beat the Niners. So easily, they could be 3-0. Easily. You know, and at the same time, all 3 games could have gone either way. And Steelers could be 0-3 or they could be 3-0. But they're 2-1 going against the Bengals. So they're looking good. The next 4 games is somewhat tough. They got the Bengals and Ravens, Chargers, bye week, and then Dolphins. So they could easily go 2-2 or somehow be 3-1. So we're going to see what happens with these Pittsburgh Steelers in this following week. And then now we are following with the Lucky 7. We got those Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What can I say about them? They had a first disappointing start of the first game. They should have won that game. They know they should have won that game. But they rebounded with 2 high-scoring wins, with a 41-10 win against those Carolina Panthers. And then they beat the Giants 42-30. So they've been relying on that star running back, Josh Adams, out of Notre Dame. They play against a fierce D-line against the LA Rams. Can they run through that team? And if they can, they're going to be a nice 3-1 going against the Week 5 matchup. First big game of the season against those New Orleans Saints. So I see them winning against the Rams, like I said, by 20 or more. But if it's a close game, Josh Allen's going to have to rely on his cannon arm to win the day.
And the running game for the Buccaneers has been their bread and butter. They've been too one-dimensional. It's the Giants that threw 3 interceptions. Mike Evans couldn't get open for nothing. Good one. So now you urge that they want to continue being a winning team against the Rams.
Right.
Can't rely on the run game all the time.
Okay. We'll see what happens later this evening when the Bucks play their game against the Rams. And then we have as our 6th best team, tracking on the top 5, but at number 6 is the Dallas Cowboys. They lost their last week against the Dolphins. All I can say is he lost to the Dolphins when the Dolphins got no upgrades. Their best player is an 83 overall. And you lost. And I repeat, Cowboys, you lost to the Dolphins. You could have been 32 if I had to pick. But you're 2-1. You did beat the Giants, and you barely beat the Redskins. But you lost the Dolphins. Like, how? And then now you play the Saints. So we all know, as a real Cowboy fan, you're going to lose this game too. So
if the Cowboys listen to anything or they watch any game by the Saints, they need to just play it deep as they notice Saints. So if you want to win, you better rely on your safeties.
And you better, if you don't get to Willie Beeman, he's going to have a field day on you guys. So hopefully these Cowboys wake up, but if not, they're the same Dallas Cowboys from old.
And they knocked right out the top 10 with that.
Yep. Finally, knocking that top 5 team or the 5 best teams of Wallace Madden League is the New England Patriots. They're 2-1, even though they lost their opener against the Steelers. They bounced back against the Dolphins and the Jets. They play the Bills this week. And the next 5 games are very, very favorable for them. They play the Bills, Redskins, Giants, Jets, and Browns. So I can easily see the Patriots being 7-1. They already beat the Jets. So I feel like they can beat them again. So I see these Patriots going 7-1 going into the week 9.
Ooh, you might be right. Or they can be 6-2. The Jets, that was a very close game, so the Jets might have figured it out on the
Right.
second game, and they might get him. The Browns might pick up, but I'm not counting on that.
Me neither.
But he could stay 6-2. We can stay right there. The Patriots are very good. Are they poised to take the number 1 seed? Maybe.
As our number 4 best team of the league, we have those Indianapolis Colts. First 2 games they won. They had a close game against those LA Chargers. And then they had a 61-0 win against the Titans. And then they had a 23-13 lead entering the fourth quarter. And their star quarterback fumbled 3 straight times to give 4 turnovers for 22 points against the Falcons, who won that game. It was the Colts' first home opener, and they lost. But we're going to see if that team can rebound against the LA or the Vegas Raiders. So
if it wasn't for the mistakes that they made on offense, they would have easily been 3-0. But as it stands, they're 2-1. They got a chance to pick it up again, then come back and go play the Chiefs. So they got a good chance, and I only see them losing 2 more games before playoffs start. So
yeah, we're gonna see what happens. I think the Raiders and the Colts play tonight. They have a primetime game at 8 p.m. West Coast time. So we're gonna see what happens with that game tonight. So entering and finally cracking top 3 teams of the league, we got the Saints. What can I say about the Saints? The quarterback is poised for a postseason run. They're 3-0. They had a close win against those Seahawks. The other 2 games, they had nice, easily dominant wins. To this week, they play the Cowboys. And if they win this game, they're looking primed to look good for week 5. But if I'm looking at their next 5 games, it could go either way. They play Cowboys, Bucks, at Jacksonville, at Bears, and then they play the Cardinals. So I could see them easily being 6-3 or pretty much 5-3. 5-4. So
if you have to say they be undefeated,
I see them losing in the next couple weeks.
I can definitely see that, especially with the. He'll come back by 6, but still, that's crucial.
That is true. As our number 2 best team, it's the Baltimore Ravens. What can I say? High-powered offense. Explosive. Lamar Jackson is showing why he was a Heisman winner in college. He's showing why he could be the next Michael Vick 2.0, but he's still got a lot of football left. His next 3 games are favorable for the Ravens to go 6-0 until they play the Seahawks. They play the Steelers, who are not no slouch, but I feel like this Ravens offense is too much to contain all game.
These are 3 divisional games also, but Lamar to be the MVP. But they want to keep. You have to pick up. Never mind the score. Their defense has not been making enough stops. Luckily, the offense they've been playing against are not good enough to see that.
Exactly.
So we're going to see about that one as we move on.
Absolutely. And as our final team, best team of the league, is the Atlanta Falcons. 3-0. Granted, the first 2 games, they couldn't have scored nothing on offense. They barely scored anything. And then, at the same time, against the Colts, they somewhat woke up. Even though Matt Ryan threw 2 touchdowns and 2 picks, it was their defense who set them up for points on all 3 games. Their defense is their bread and butter right now, even though they haven't made their team better yet. But those Falcons are really showing why they're one of the best teams of the league.
Defenses wins the game. I think that's going to be the reason why they're going to be in the playoffs. the defense because the Dolphins are not going to be the offense.
It's not.
Unless I have to pick it up. Because Matty Ice sounded like Matty.
Yeah, he's not looking good. And then I could easily say that the best conference in the league is the NFC South, but you have those terrible Panthers. So it's like, who has the best division right now in the league? And all I can really say is the NFC South, because NFC West, they got some good teams, but there's two undefeated teams in NFC South, and they got a 2-1 Buccaneers right there waiting to pounce. So it's like, I could see this NFC South bringing in 3 teams in the playoffs.
That would be crazy. I do see it. I don't know other team that can topple if they go with this. They play now and they get better. Yeah, wait, they wouldn't.
That is really true. That was our conclusion of the power rankings of the league. And is there anything else you want to talk about? I'm looking at the stats around the league, and I'm looking at who is the best passer right now, and we can both agree on it right now. It's Lamar Jackson. He has 16 touchdowns and 1 pick. So he's clearly showing why he wants to win MVP.
Oh, yeah. And just keep it up. He's definitely is Carson Wentz.
That is true.
It's not even that close. 7 TDs and 8 interceptions. So
right.
That's huge.
And then I look at the running back in the league, and look at this man named Josh Adams. He was a nobody last year in the first year of the NFL career, and he has 626 yards. He's averaging almost 11 yards per carry. He's averaging almost 209 yards a game. So clearly, he doesn't care about your run defense. And the best part of his stats is that he has no fumbles. None. If you look at all the top players, Zeke has 2 fumbles. Gurley got 1. Jordan Howard got 2. All the big names got fumbles. Kamara got 3 fumbles. So clearly he can't hold nothing. So he has baby hands. So if he get hit one time, we know that ball coming out. So, and then we're looking at the receiving core. And like we should all know, it's Marquise Hollywood Brown, who leading the league with reception yards and most TD catches right now. So they're looking good. Right behind him is Brandon Cooks. So we're going to see what happens. We got T.Y. Hilton third with the yardage, but only 15 receptions. So we're going to see what happens with that receiving leaderboard throughout the season. For defense, leading the league in tackles is Nigel Bradham from the Philadelphia Eagles. Right behind him is Bobby Wagner and Darnell Savage. To lead the league right now in sacks in the league is J.J. Wilcox and E.J. Speed. I understand, guys.
14 sacks already.
We want to know who in the fuck. We want to know who in the fuck is J.J. Wilcox and E.J. Speed. Remember, fellas, this team gave away Darius Leonard, who had 5 sacks first game. And when I'm looking at the Chiefs, he still has 5 sacks already. So he clearly not utilizing Leonard to his potential. And if you look at these Colts, they have 2 guys over 10 sacks, and we only play 3 games. So clearly they could break the record easily. As the most picks of the league, we got Marcus May from the Jets. And then we got a 2-way tie with Miles Jack and Justin Reed. So, a lot of defense looking pretty good. Our best kicker right now is Dustin Hopkins from the Washington Redskins, who pretty much needed that extra point to beat the Cowboys, or the Bears, I mean. And then anybody from special teams right now who kicked one back, we got the all-purpose guy, Marquise Brown from the Ravens. You got 2 kickoff return touchdowns. 2.
Hollywood does everything.
He had back-to-back kickoff return touchdowns last week against the Chiefs. So he's showing why he's a elusive threat. And to look around the league, as we always say, the number one offense in the league right now is the Baltimore Ravens. Second behind him is the Eagles. And then surprisingly, I'm kind of shocked right now, the fourth best offense is the Panthers. How in the fuck are you for it?
Hold on. Redo this. The Panthers are fourth?
Fourth best offense. I'm just trying to figure out how you're fourth, but you're 0-4.
You know what? Maybe it's because the 4 games they already played, while the rest of the league only played 3 games right now. We might not be saying that afterwards.
Yeah, I hope not. I'll be shocked. And that's our defense. Like, what can I say? We got the Jets, number 1, the Colts, number 2, Falcons 3, Niners 4, and the Jags finish up as our top 5 defense. If you look at the Jets, they gave up the least time with the Falcons with 40 points they gave up. They have 10 sacks, 3 fumbles, and 10 interceptions. If you look at the Colts, they have 37 sacks already between 3 games already.
37 sacks in 3 games.
Yeah.
Gotta watch out.
The Vikings got 21 behind them. But right now, the Colts are really trying to headhunt any quarterback, no matter who it is.
Look at this. Only 132 rushing yards allowed. Oh, my God, man. This is real. 132 rushing yards allowed.
Hey, man, I feel like what happened was, I think they signed Ted Yost to be the defensive coordinator from that movie. Remember the Titans? Their head coach is Herman Boone. Their defensive coach is Ted Yost, and that's why the star quarterback is Ronnie Bass. So they bring in that hard smash mouth football to the Colts area that they're not used to. You know, their defense is for real, you know, but they're going to see what happens against a week 4 foe. The team with the most picks is the Jaguars. They got 16 picks in 3 games. The Texans right behind them with 11, and the Bears and Vikings both got 11. So they're looking pretty good. The best team right now with conversions on third downs is the Ravens. They're at 70%. They're close. The Buccaneers, Steelers, and Seahawks are right behind them with the Cowboys. Red zone efficiency, we got the Steelers, Niners, and Redskins both 100%. So they're in the 20 yards or less, they're going to get their points. Penalties, the best team without no penalties right now is the Skins and the Chargers. And the turnover ratio right now is the Ravens with 12 turnovers right now. They gave up 2, so they have a 12-2 ratio right now. So looking pretty good. So
it's just on offense. Still, they pick up on defense.
Exactly. So, do you see any upsets this weekend or this week on week 4?
Let's see. Out of all the games that I'm looking for an upset, I'm looking for offense to upset the Chargers.
Okay.
I feel like they might pull it. I'm telling you, there's poised for a breakout game. I'm telling you.
Okay. My upset is the Browns over the Ravens.
Could be. I see the Browns still failing to make any appearance on either side of the ball.
Well, maybe they bought a new controller today, and that's how they might win a game. So,
or they spend money on training camp.
Or an ebook. So that's my upset. I still see the Lions beating the Chiefs because the Chiefs right now they're in the room with the door closed, sad right now, and the Chiefs said that they're going to win the whole thing this year. And this is not a team that's going to win the whole thing if they're 0-3, maybe 0-4. You know, if they don't win this game, I'm writing them off. They're done in my book. They need to rebuild and maybe with those 2 first-round picks, get some skill or a new controller. So hopefully they win this week. If they don't and they're 0-4, then they play a tough Colts team who don't give up nothing. So we're going to see what happens this week.
if they lose, done. We won't talk about them the whole entire duration of the season because we already at 32.
No matter what. I don't care if the Panthers are 0-16 and the Chiefs are like 7-9. The Chiefs are still the last best team in the league.
Seriously.
Yeah, that's my conclusion of the week 4. I can't wait to see this game played this week. And is there anything else you want to say to our fans and our viewers before we head out?
Only that we appreciate you all. We hope we'll see you back again next week on the conclusion of Madden Talk.
All right.